Who exactly is the Life of Riza?
1, 2.
To all her subscribers, she's Riza, a 20-something-year-old Filipino living in Canada. But what I found out amazed me. A few weeks ago, I had no idea who this person was, and then I came across a video on my YouTube feed by Shauna Land. What ended up happening was that video was not enough. I started watching all the other videos, and what I found that amazed me. She figured a way to catch people's attention without becoming over preachy and boring. And it's a concept that a lot of us have forgotten about. This is part 2 of the Making Bank YouTube series. Keep watching so I can actually show you what part 1 is, so that you can actually start from the beginning. What I found out, right, as I was watching the videos was the magic of storytelling. Before I go further into that, I gotta give you a little snippet about the Life of Riza's rise to fame. On May 10th, 2023, she was under 10,000 subscribers. Then 3 weeks later, on May 28th, 2023, she jumped to 100 subscribers. That's literally 100% growth. That's incredible, right? And now when you look at her channel, it's around 350,000 subscribers. And that is incredible, right? Her leap from literally being in the under 10,000s on YouTube to jumping to the 100,000 to jumping to the 300,000 subscribers is literally unknown. And then I wanted to figure out exactly what makes her so different from other YouTubers. And what I realized and figured out was incredible. The magic of storytelling.
They say that happiness is pretty simple. Someone to love, something to do, something to look forward to. I just wish they had been more specific.
It seems like such a simple concept, right? But how many of us relate to stories? How many of us are imbrued, right, with stories on the internet? We click on YouTube videos that tell a story, or going to cinema and watching a movie on the big screen, or even watching a movie with your family and friends. We love stories. We've loved stories since the beginning of time, since we were in cave. Many of us, content creators and business owners and entrepreneurs and creative people, we forget the magic of storytelling. I would say this one concept is what made her blow up. But another thing is human connection. Human connection is something you feel when you're watching a movie, or when you're watching your favorite YouTuber, or you're following your favorite influencer on social media. It is when you relate to that person, you relate to their ups and their downs, you relate to how they came from, underdog to success story. You relate to them. You grieve when they grieve. You sympathize when they're sad. You rejoice when they're happy, because it's like watching a book come to life. It's like watching your favorite movie as a kid, right? And falling in love with every single character, falling in love with the character journey, falling in love with the hero's arc. Human connection is what makes us us. Because human beings, without it, we're nothing, right? Now, that is the second point. The third point, I would say, is the story of us.
People are calling this one of the most unlikely comebacks in sports history. What do you attribute it to?
Like I said, right, we've been telling stories for eons. Stories have been the bread and butter of human civilization. They were there before the Gutenberg press, when the first book came out. They were there before we had technology. They were there when we were in caves and we were doing cave paintings. They were there when we were trying to depict what happened to us and we're trying to figure out life and survival. When we see something unfolding, right, we are amazed by it. But the difference between the story of us and the magic of storytelling is the story of us, we can actually see ourselves in those people's footsteps. When someone is out and about and they're struggling paying their bills and they're struggling to make ends meet, and we see them at the other side of the yellow brick road and they're not successful, we rejoice. Because for us, that's all we want, right? We look at these celebrities and they inspire us to go further, right? To do more. And the story of us is something that every single human being can relate to. I'd also like to add onto the story of us is how she beautifully encapsulates the cinematography with telling a story. So it's not like you're being bored down by facts and statistics and you'll get bored. You're interested in her life story because you can actually see how she goes from one point to the next, because you can put yourselves there. Because like I said, she's telling a story, and we can all relate to stories regardless of where we are in the world, whether you're in India, whether you're in Europe, whether you're in America. We can all relate. It goes across borders, it goes across genders, it goes across nationality, it goes across skin color, because at the end of the day, stories are what connects us. The stories of us connect us all. As an entrepreneur and as a creator, we can learn a lot from Life of Riza. And that's what I like to do in especially this video series that I'm doing, all about looking at these influencers and these YouTubers who are doing great on the platform and dissecting exactly what we can learn from them. So what can we learn from Life of Riza? Well, the first thing we can learn from it is there's no such thing as overnight success. You know, in the last decade or so, we've been bombarded with overnight success stories, and we think, oh my gosh, you know, these people have overnight success. And when you go to her page, right, and she's only got 36 videos, you think to yourself that this girl had overnight success. Down the rabbit hole, YouTube rabbit hole, and I found out that she started making mileage on other videos. She had to do 50 videos. How many of us quit when we've uploaded the second, the third, and the fourth, and the fifth video? You know, like, maybe it's not for me. I've done that so many times where I'm like, okay, I'm not getting views, I'm not getting likes, I'm not getting comments. And it's so easy for us to dwell on that, and it's so easy for us to focus on that instead of focusing on how every successful person has been there. Every successful person has struggled with that. Every successful person has been at that point where they had to decide whether, am I gonna keep going for this, or am I gonna quit? Am I gonna keep finding out what makes me tick, or am I just gonna throw everything out? Okay, another thing is the risk it to get the biscuit. Now, one of my favorite lines from a movie, and it's very corny, it's from the Fired Up movie that came out in 2009. It basically is, you gotta risk it to get the biscuit. And as corny as this line is, it beautifully encapsulates a lot of the times what we struggle with. In order for you to get the reward, you gotta risk things. In order for you to go where you wanna go, you have to risk things. In order for you to jump from one position to the next, you gotta risk something. And sometimes we don't want the risk. We don't wanna feel awkward. We wanna feel, we don't wanna embarrass ourselves. We don't wanna fail. We don't wanna get rejected. We don't wanna feel as if whatever we've done is a flop. No one wants to feel like that. No one wants to fail. No one wants to struggle with that. But the thing is, in order for you to get the reward, in order for you to get success, in order for you to reach that milestone, you gotta risk things. You gotta risk it literally to get the biscuit. Okay, another thing I learned from the Life of Riza is you gotta jump for opportunity. And a lot of us are scared of that. Jumping for opportunity, because sometimes it's not opportunity. Sometimes it's a chance for opportunity, but it means you actually stepping out of your comfort zone to get the opportunity. And a lot of us, especially introverts, we struggle with that. I'm an introvert, especially an introvert with ADG. I struggle with the unfamiliarity of it all. I struggle with leaving my door to go to an unfamiliar place because I don't know what's going to be there. But Life of Riza, one thing as I was watching videos, taught me is a lot of us, we have to jump for opportunity, jump to go to a new city, jump for the opportunity to write a book, jump for the opportunity to do something you've never done before. Because in that, right? In that whole thing, you can realize so much about yourself and so much about your potential. Another thing is the mixing the bag. And this is a lot for, especially in the entrepreneurship space and the creator economy space. And what is so beautiful about mixing the bag is the Life of Riza, right? When you watch her videos, it's cinematography mixed with personal development. All her videos literally have an element of personal development in it, but it's coated with cinematography, which makes it so different from a lot of videos. There's so many YouTubers out there making the same video on the same subject, but what makes them different? Often you don't realize what makes them different because it looks the same. Sometimes in life, in order for you to actually make mileage, you gotta change things up. You gotta do something, yes, that is familiar, but at the same time add onto it. For example, there are people who have done that on YouTube with minimalism and self-development. Ali Abdaal did that with reviewing books, with personal development, and also with making money online. You don't have to be like everyone else to stand out. Sometimes standing out means actually mixing the bag and showing what you can showcase and how you can be different. And this is the reason why people jump right from, like, they can have massive leaps in a short space of time because they're different from everyone else. And this is what the Life of Riza did. She was different from everyone else. And that's what made her videos jump out of the screen. And that's why people chose to watch her videos, because it wasn't the same old thing. It felt relatable. It felt authentic. It felt as if she wasn't like a guru, but literally was a friend you were talking to. Now it's all about the beauty of finding purpose. A lot of the times people say don't follow your passion, and I wholly agree with it. But often at times you got to follow your passion plus your purpose. Now the difference between purpose and passion is what you love to do. Purpose is what you were called to do. And this is what made the Life of Riza really jump out at me, because she could have quit. So many times she could have quit, right? Because she had been doing this for 4 years. 4 years is a long time. But what made her not quit? What made her keep going forward? What made her choose to keep going ahead was because that was her purpose. Her purpose was to be a YouTuber. Like, that's what she dreamed about. Like, even though she had a passion for, YouTubing, but that was also her purpose. Her passion was cinematography. And then she decided that she was going to encapsulate cinematography plus YouTube and figure out how to work it out. You can love something and not mind not getting paid for it. Or, and give up being consistent with it. But when you've got a purpose, you never give up. And this is why a lot of us need to figure out what our purpose is. Because when you find your purpose, it's so difficult to give up, because you know what God called you to do. You know the reason for living. You know the reason for existing. You know the reason for why you wake up in the morning. And you've got an ultimate big why, a big goal, right? Now the other one is the figure it out. Like, one of my favorite quotes from this movie, Perks of Being a Wallflower. So in it, Charlie is talking to a doctor. And the doctor says to Charlie that we can choose where we come from, but we can choose where we go from there. And a lot of us struggle with this notion that born in a rich family, we're not born in a certain country, we're not born a certain color, we're not born a certain, ethnicity, and it goes on and on and on, right? You've got all these reasons for why you shouldn't do something. Maybe you don't have the skills. Maybe you were taught bad money habits. Maybe you were taught how not to develop your skills. Maybe you're not techno, right? Maybe you feel as if you are too much of an introvert, right? Or you grew up in a very bad background. The list goes on and on and on. So many people out there who've been where you've been. There's so many people out there who understand where you're coming from. The difference here is you have a choice of where you go. You gotta believe that God has purpose for your life, but you also gotta have faith that you can fulfill that purpose. Because it's so important that you keep pushing ahead. It's so important that you never give up. It's so important that you keep going forward. Because at the end of the day, the story we tell ourselves is just as important as the story we tell other people. So if you tell yourself that you're inadequate, if you tell yourself that you've got ADHD, if you tell yourself you can't do something because you don't have the skills, if you tell yourself that you're not intelligent enough or committed enough, and the list goes on, right? You don't have enough money, right? That story will ferment in your mind. So the magical storytelling, the whole point of this video was the magical storytelling. And the stories we tell ourselves is also the magical storytelling. Because you can tell yourself a brilliant story, a story of downfall and pain and anguish, but at the end of the day, we choose where we go from there. Thank you so much for watching, and like promised, if you haven't watched part 1, you can watch it here, somewhere around here. You can watch it somewhere around here. And please please subscribe if you haven't yet, so that you're always notified whenever a new video comes out. And part 3 of this YouTube series is coming out next week, so I don't want you to miss out. That one's going to be exciting, and I'll see you until next time. Bye.